The moment Lu Muyen stepped into the Empire Academy's gates, she received numerous types of gazes, of disdain, loathing, jealousy, ridicule, dislike, and of interest, that of which appeared like they were watching a play. She sighed inwardly. What sort of failure was the original owner of this body that she looked like a pest in everyone's eyes? So many gazes and yet not one of them were looks of friendliness. She was really speechless. Calmly ignoring all the unfriendly gazes, Lu Muyen continued towards the direction of the library. According to the memories of the original owner, the library of the Empire Academy collected the most comprehensive list of books in the entire empire, including books that recorded various medicinal herbs and spiritual herbs on this continent. She now wanted to find out if this continent had the spiritual herbs to refine the marrow cleansing pill. She, Lu Muyen, a cultivator with the heavenly spiritual root at the body fusion stage of the immortal cultivation world, encountered the battle between two true spirit cultivators when she was breaking through to the great ascension stage and, unluckily enough, was dragged into the spatial storm caused by their battle. Her physical body was destroyed, while her soul transmigrated into the body of a natural-born trash with the terminal meridian's constitution on Tianling continent. Whether in her former lives' immortal cultivation world or the current world, both followed the law of survival of the strongest. Lu Muyen was currently far too weak. Any random cultivator could easily squish her beneath their foot. She desperately desired to increase her power, but if she wanted to recultivate, she was required to unblock all of the meridians in this body, otherwise she couldn't even feel the spiritual force of heaven and earth in this world, not to mention absorb it to cultivate. And the only way to solve this problem was to refine the marrow cleansing pill and improve and eliminate this trash body. People with terminal meridians simply meant that their entire bodis meridians were blocked, unable to unclog, and no matter how hard they tried, they wouldn't be able to absorb the spiritual force in the atmosphere. At most, they could only cultivate until advanced phase sword apprentice in this world. On the way to the library, Lu Muyen could hear people judging. When one young girl saw Lu Muyen had passed by, she immediately went to her friend beside her, whispering, "Isn't that Lu Muyen? Whyd she returned to the academy? Other than to chase after Qi Yixian, why else would she return to the Empire Academy?" Another person replied in disdain. "She still has the face to return, how shameless." There was derision in this girl's voice. That's right, Qi Yixian never gave her any good looks. Mentioning the name Qi Yixian, there existed a sliver of yearning in her voice. Another person continued, "She shamelessly chases after Qi Yixian every day, the Lu clan lost all their face because of her." Exactly, why couldn't she have just been beaten into a handicap by Gu Yanran last time? Then she added, "Pfft. I almost forgot she was already trash." "Shoo, lower your voice, if she heard you, she'd bring her guards to bash people again." "Whatever you say, she still has her superior status protecting her, so what if she's trash? Not like we can afford to offend her." There was a hint of bitterness in her voice. Lu Muyen rolled her eyes but didn't bother debating with them. Her most important thing right now was to improve her constitution. Without power as the premise, her days were truly miserable. Using the barbaric ways of the original owner of this body, as if she had a brain spasm to bully others was something she really couldn't do. But in reality, the original owner of this body wasn't really that unbearable. Since she inherited all the memories and emotions of the original owner, in Lu Muyen's eyes, the original owner simply loved a person she shouldn't have and used simplistic and idiotic ways to deal with interpersonal relationships. Her reputation was only ruined by scheming people. She wasn't a bad person. She actually pitied the original owner. She was born in the Lu clan that was brimming with prodigies, yet she was a person born with the terminal meridian's constitution. She didn't belong. Despite her strong background, it could never fill the loneliness and inferiority in her heart. So she used unreasonable and willful methods to hide her hopelessness and struggles. She licked her wounds alone, wounds from unobtainable love, eventually resulting in her willingly dispersing her own soul and relinquished the body to the current Lu Muyen. The library was situated deep within the forest of red maple trees. Within the forest, arrays were installed, and only those who bore the customized student badge of the academy wouldn't get lost. A sea of fiery red maple leaves swayed with the wind. Beneath the sunlight, they were set ablaze, and even more gorgeous, forming a unique scenery within the academy. At the very end of the red maple forest stood a profound, ancient building. Lu Muyen's powers were inhibited after her soul transmigrated, and she had no cultivation base, but her soul was very strong, so she could use mental energy equivalent to the foundation establishment stage of her previous life. As such, she could perceive that there was a layer of energy protecting the library building. She also discovered that there were currently a few very powerful auras concealed within the building, probably belonging to the guardians of the library. The entrance to the library was open all year round. When she entered, she took out her student badge and gave it to the manager. After registering, she entered the inner room, followed the signs, and found a book titled Tianling Continent's Flora Record. Lu Muyen took the book from the shelf and scanned a few pages. In it, there weren't just illustrations, but also detailed explanations. A satisfied smile rose on her face. It was precisely what she needed. Then she arrived at a seat beside the window and began to peruse the book. The ingredients required for the marrow cleansing pill: red leaf lotus, snake saliva fruit, flame fruit, and spirit gathering grass were all recorded, only their names were slightly different to what she knew in her previous world. But Lu Muyen frowned slightly. Based on her memories, 3 of the 4 spiritual herbs were easy to find. They would be present in higher-end apothecaries, but the flame fruit was rarely found on the market. If one desired it, they must enter the blazing mountain range that was situated on the border of Yenzhou Kingdom. Regardless, she swiftly browsed through the book, imprinting every detail in her mind for future use. Holding a badge rewarded to him, Qi Xian entered the library to seek for a suitable support-type technique for himself. Just as he turned to go upstairs, in his peripheral vision, he caught sight of a young girl sitting by the windows, quietly browsing through a book. The young girl dressed in a simple, elegant purple dress, and her smooth black hair was tied with a black ribbon behind her head. There wasn't a hint of makeup on her beautiful face, only emphasizing her exquisite facial features, while her pretty brows were slightly furrowed. Sunlight spilled on her from behind, and her whole body exuded a faint warmth beneath the soft light, while her temperament seemed as if one who had been baptized, transformed, into another who was peaceful, elegant, tranquil, and pleasant. Startled, Qi Xian wondered, was this person really Lu Muyen? He couldn't match this girl with the one in his memories who liked to dress in gaudy clothes and adorned mature makeup. He contemplated a little longer, then turned and headed to the second floor. After finishing Tianling Continent's flora record, Lu Muyen found a few more books to read on the shelves that introduced Tianling Continent, and inadvertently found the Tianling Continent's demonic beast record. Interested, she read the entire book, and even memorized all the information. After stretching, she placed all the books back in their original places and left the library. Recalling the location of her residence in the academy, she quickly walked out of Red Maple Forest. Just as she turned left, a jarring, provocative voice entered her ear. "Oh, isn't this young Miss Lu? Why do you run so fast when you see our Yen ran? Were you afraid of being beaten again?" Lu Muyen looked back and found 2 boys and 2 girls walking out from another part of the Red Maple Forest. The girl that spoke was considered pretty, wearing a glaring red silk dress that wrapped around her hot figure, with an obviously fake display of charm. At first glance, it was a woman with big breasts and no brain. Beside her stood a beautiful young girl with fair, tender skin, a shy smile on her face, and who wore a light yellow dress that gave her a gentle and refined temperament. Lu Muyen recognized them from memory. The red-clothed girl, Zheng Ro, was the official daughter of a wealthy merchant of the empire, while the other was that white flower too, Gu Yen Ran. Together with the girls, there were 2 men whose appearances were rather exceptional. One wore a stern face with a tall, straight posture, and was clothed in black, which generated a masculine temperament. His whole person exuded a cold and arrogant manly charm. He was precisely Qi Xian, the original owner of this bodis most beloved. The other wore a luxurious purple robe with a handsome appearance. His pair of peach-shaped, amorous eyes carried a flirtatious charm, but was hardly feminine, as he appeared like an unrestrained and unruly man who followed his passions. The 5th Prince Yunjin of Yanzhou Kingdom. Ro, no need to say any more, I had my faults that day as well. Gu Yen Ran said softly as she gently pulled Zheng Rao's sleeve. Zheng Ro casted a look of soft anger at her. "You're just too kind, that's why others will bully you." Lu Muyen watched their performance coldly. She really wasn't interested in these sorts of dramas. Her gaze swept over the 4 people indifferently, turned around, and was about to leave. This move surprised the 4 of them, especially Gu Yen Ran. Based on experience, this trash should have immediately charged forward, pointing at Zheng Ro, and erupted into curses. But why did she act so uncharacteristically today? Not to mention her style and makeup, as well as her temperament, seemed to belong to a completely different person. A bad premonition suddenly rose in her heart. "Lu Muyen, you stop for me right now." Seeing Lu Muyen blatantly ignore her, anger rose in Zheng Ro, and she yelled out. Qi Xian didn't stop them, his eyebrows furrowed. When he went to the library earlier, he also discovered Lu Muyen's temperament was as if it belonged to a completely different person, but when he exited, she was already gone. After exiting the library, he coincidentally met Yunjin's group, so they left Red Maple Forest together, not expecting to meet Lu Muyen here. Yet today, despite meeting him, Lu Muyen actually didn't take the initiative to grate and stick to him. He sure wanted to see what sort of tricks she wanted to play. Meanwhile, Zheng Rao's call attracted the attention of the surrounding students, stopping each of them in their steps with the desire to watch a nice play. 1. Screw loose basically. 2. Probably a reference to White Lotus, aka a fake female. Note, my first translated chapter. Yay. Killing intent flashed in Lu Muyen's eyes, and she turned around, looking at Zheng Ro coldly. Zheng Ro was stunned by her gaze, then felt she couldn't possibly be afraid of the gaze of a trash, so she shook her head lightly, puffed out her large breasts, and said arrogantly, "Lu Muyen, this young miss here told you to stay, and yet you dare to leave." The cold light in Lu Muyen's eyes grew colder. This woman exploited her relationship as Qi Xian's distant younger cousin and often bullied and oppressed the original owner of the body. Meanwhile, the original owner always conceded to give face to the Qi clan. But in turn, it allowed this big-chested, no-brained woman to grow exceedingly arrogant, acting self-important. "Pfft, who do you think you are? If I want to stay, I stay, if I want to leave, I leave, must I ask permission from the daughter of a lowly merchant?" Disdain and ridicule oozed from her gaze. It wasn't that she belittled merchants, but that their overall status in Yanzhou Kingdom wasn't that high. In recent years, it was only because Gu Yen Ran's elder sister entered the palace as an imperial noble consort that the merchant status improved. Of course, it was probably also one of the emperor's acquiesced tactics. This was the first time Zheng Ro heard Lu Muyen mock her without consideration of anyone's feelings. She suddenly didn't know how to handle the situation, and her face that was already thick with blush grew even redder as she held her breath in anger. Hearing the suppressed laughter around them, Zheng Rao's anger erupted. She drew her long sword, pointed it at Lu Muyen, and lunged towards her. Today, she must teach her a lesson. Seeing Zheng Ro wield her sword to stab her, Lu Muyen's eyes revealed some disdain. Even though Zheng was a middle-phase sword apprentice and was one phase above the original owner of this body, but Lu Muyen had her own flesh-refining method she learnt from her previous life. It was simple for her to avoid the attack if she wanted to. Within the 1 month she was recuperating from her injuries, she trained this weak body every single day. Just as Zheng Rao's sword was about to pierce Lu Muyen's chest, Qi Yixian frowned slightly, but didn't stop it. He knew Zheng Rou didn't have the courage to kill Lu Muyen. Meanwhile, Gu Yanran appeared to worry, but she was delighted in her heart. Lu Muyen asked for this herself. So what if she had a noble status? If it weren't for her elder sister warning her not to provoke Lu Muyen anymore, she would have wanted to make another move and completely handicap this spoiled, reckless trash. Yet when everyone thought Lu Muyen was about to be stabbed, she suddenly flipped herself backwards, instantly avoiding Zheng Rao's attack. Her gaze chilled. She spun around and kicked Zheng Rou in the stomach, and as the latter hugged her abdomen, Lu Muyen grabbed her wrist, tugged her closer, then lowered Zheng Rao's body and kneed her in the chest. Zheng Rou had no battle experience, so she could only shriek in pain in this situation. Lu Muyen's shocking behavior stunned the audience. This trash had this sort of talent? It must be luck. Stop. Gu Yanran said tenderly, but, inwardly, she wished Lu Muyen would give Zheng Rou a few more beatings so that Qi Yixian could despise her even more. Lu Muyen ignored Gu Yanran's shout, lifted her foot, and directly kicked Zheng Rou to the ground. Zheng Rou held the place she was kicked, heard the ridicule of everyone, and, disregarding the pain of her body, screamed like a madman, swinging her sword towards Lu Muyen again. But this time, she learned to be clever, guarding against the tricks Lu Muyen used just before. Lu Muyen sneered. What a stupid woman. No wonder Gu Yanran took advantage of her all day long. She simply used her silk mist steps to dodge the attack and dashed to Zheng Rao's side. An arrest knocked the sword from Zheng Rao's hands, then with one hand clasping her wrist, the other reached directly for Zheng Rao's face. Pa! Pa! Everyone merely saw Lu Muyen incessantly slap Zheng Rao's face left and right, yet they also felt the pain on their cheeks. Seeing the situation getting out of control, Qi Yixian frowned and said coldly, Lu Muyen, that's enough. Lu Muyen was just feeling gratified. she was already aggrieved when her cultivation completely fell from an almighty cultivator into trash after she transmigrated, but, aside from the evident concern from her family in the 1 month, everything else also made her extremely vexed. So she welcomed Zheng Rou, who took the initiative to come up to her and allow her to vent the little bit of her irritation and dissatisfaction. But that stinky Qi Yixian actually told her it was enough and to stop. Why should she? Though she inherited the emotions of the original owner of this body, she could still forcibly let go of the intense love that didn't belong to her. She blatantly rolled her eyes at Qi Yixian and continued to slap Zheng Rou. Pfft, Yixian, Lu Muyen doesn't even give you face anymore. Interesting. Yun Jin's amorous eyes revealed a hint of interest. Today, at first glance, he already felt that Lu Muyen had changed, but he didn't expect her to become this interesting. Qi Yixian's face darkened, then said impatiently, Lu Muyen, stop playing these types of tricks to get my attention, hurry up and let Zheng Rou go. When Lu Muyen heard Qi Yixian say this, the anger in her chest burned even fiercer, and she stopped temporarily. When everyone thought she would release Zheng Rou, act cute, and apologize to Qi Yixian, she suddenly looked Qi Yixian up and down, then said with disdain, and who do you think you are? This young miss isn't bothered playing with you anymore. Look at you, want chests and yet you have none, want a butt and yet you also have none. You don't even look as good as the purple-clothed handsome beauty standing beside you. I really don't know which eye of mine was blind to fancy you. Her words shocked the entire audience. What did she mean, want chests and yet you have none? Want a butt and yet you also have none? What did a man need those for? Were men described in such a way? This is a blatant insult. Pfft, haha. Yun Jin couldn't help but roar with laughter. It was rare to see Qi Yixian be the laughingstock, so he was exceptionally happy, laughed very openly, and felt that Lu Muyen was even more pleasing to the eye. Qi Yixian's face turned dark, and cold air exuded from his body. He never expected that Lu Muyen, who always obeyed him, would refute him in such a way. He debated whether to argue back, yet felt he didn't need to dispute with an ignorant woman. But he also felt extremely discontent with Lu Muyen's attitude towards him. Gu Yanran sneered inwardly. Lu Muyen, you're so stupid. Did you think you could attract Yixian's gaze? A barbaric trash like you will only push him further away. Taking gentle lotus steps forward, Gu Yanran said to Lu Muyen with a look of righteousness, young Miss Lu, don't you think this is a little too much? Zheng Rou did not harm you, so why do you humiliate her so? Lu Muyen took out a silk handkerchief and wiped her hands. Only after did she raise her head, facing Gu Yanran with a look of ridicule, saying, is it only when her sword pierces my chest that it's considered harm? Young Miss Gu, since you are young Miss Zheng's best friend, why didn't you come out and stop me earlier? Only stepping out to demonstrate your righteous heart after you finished watching the show, is that not too late? What's more, is it in your place to tell this young miss what to do? Who do you think you are as well? When Zheng Rou heard Lu Muyen's words, she raised her head and looked at Gu Yanran with anger burning in her eyes. Gu Yanran didn't expect that after 1 month, Lu Muyen not only seemed to be a different person, but she was also so astute, resolving the awkwardness of her vicious and humiliating acts towards Zheng Rou, and even pushed the conflict onto herself. She wasn't afraid of Zheng Rou hating her, but she still needed such a stupid woman to be her shield and an excuse to do things in her stead. So young Miss Lu considers yourself reasonable for beating someone then? I saw Yixian stepping out to stop you, therefore I didn't. Who knew you wouldn't even give him any face today? Gu Yanran said in a gentle voice as if having been put in a difficult position, while acting considerate of Lu Muyen. If I stepped out, I feared that I would accidentally hurt you. If that harmed the harmony between the Lu clan and the Gu clan again, my sin would be too grave. Lu Muyao curled her lips, smiling. This woman was certainly conniving. She only said a few sentences and it tossed the criticism back to her. Translated product by Mayar Come True. Note, the author probably expects readers to know the general idea for the cultivation levels since What do you mean by you heard Yi Xian tell me to stop, so you didn't step out? Also, what do you mean you didn't think I wouldn't even give him any face today? Am I related to him in any way? It's not like him a shameful concubine of the Qi clan that can't be shown to public. Lu Muyen chuckled and asked in reply disdainfully. Since Gu Yanran wanted to chat, shall see it to the end. She wasn't like the original owner of this body who could only use brute force to solve problems. Gu Yanran's face paled. She hated that lowly status the most, that's why she hoped to improve her strength in the Empire Academy and eliminate her identity as a concubine. She wanted to become Yi Xian's official wife, and not some lowly concubine. Lu Muyen did well. She successfully roused her fury. You what? Nothing to say? I really don't know why the little concubine set by the Qi clan is still coming to the Empire Academy to learn. The Qi clan sure is at ease. Are they not afraid of wearing a few green hats? It was utter nonsense, but Lu Muyen just wanted to irritate and provoke Gu Yanran. Hearing Lu Muyen's words grow more and more outrageous and unwarranted, Gu Yanran's face paled even more. She tugged at Qi Yi Xian's clothes and called him softly, looking wronged and delicate, Yi Xian. Lu Muyen, have you had enough? Whatever you do, I will never like you, just give up. Yanran will be a part of the Qi clan in the future, she's not someone that you can slander baselessly. Although Qi Yi Xian didn't have any romantic feelings for Gu Yanran, she was still the concubine that the clan set for him. Insulting her was equivalent to insulting the Qi clan. Especially the part about wearing a green hat, he just wanted to choke Lu Muyen to death when he heard it. Lu Muyen rolled her eyes, raised her eyebrow and sneered, us two females are quarreling, what is a male like you butting in for? Or do you want to be known as the crazy house husband in the empire? This miss has no interest in you already. The person who liked you is dead, so please don't misunderstand and narcissistically think I still have feelings for you anymore. Humph, you sure are glib now. So unreasonable. Qi Yi Xian simply couldn't communicate with Lu Muyen anymore. She was absolutely unreasonable today, couldn't outmatch her. Seeing that Qi Yi Xian clearly didn't want to continue to speak to Lu Muyen, glee rose in Gu Yanran's heart. She had always felt that Qi Yi Xian actually did care for Lu Muyen, but he just hadn't realized it yet. After all, they were childhood sweethearts. So that's why, ever since she enrolled into the Empire Academy, she tried her best to deepen the conflict and completely destroy the relationship between the two. Now the idiot Lu Muyen actually said such things, her schemes really didn't go to waste. But the debt of insulting her must be paid. Lu Muyen, you were too much. Was last time's lesson not enough? I want you to publicly apologize to me, or else I'll pursue this further. On the surface, Gu Yanran appeared to be slightly aggrieved, yet was unyielding as she looked at Lu Muyen. It made many men nearby pity her and cast unkind gazes onto Lu Muyen. Lu Muyen folded her arms, raised her eyebrows lazily and said, look at you deliberately showing off a delicate appearance. The men around you don't even need to drink alcohol and they're already drunk for you. I think it's not far from wearing a green hat with such obvious seduction. And apologize in public? You think you're worthy with your status? And how do you plan on pursuing this further? You're courting death. Even though Gu Yanran was conniving, she was still only a 15-year-old girl. How could she endure such insults from her most hated person? Blinded by anger, she pulled out her sword and leapt at Lu Muyen. A smile flashed past Lu Muyen's face. She was waiting for this. She used her silk mist steps and glided around Gu Yanran. When her mental energy captured Gu Yanran approaching, her figure stalled, allowing Gu Yanran's sword to pierce through her left shoulder. Gu Yanran was taken aback for a moment before she was sent flying back from a wave of energy. Pu. A mouthful of blood spurted out. Gu Yanran held her chest and lifted her head, staring at the white-clothed man who suddenly appeared. Her pupils constricted. That man actually returned. All everyone saw was a white-clothed man who walked over slowly. He was extremely handsome, with a gentle temperament that carried a sense of otherworldliness like a fallen immortal. He simply flicked his sleeve earlier, and Gu Yanran was injured, showing his insane strength. The young woman was a jade beauty, and the young man was peerless too. This was the impression he left on others. Yenner, are you okay? The white-clothed man walked to Lu Muyen's side, asking dotingly and in concern. Lu Muyen pressed her injured shoulder with a look of grievance, crying, Big brother, you're finally back. This man that was like a fallen immortal was precisely Lu Muyen's blood-related eldest brother, Lu Mubai, and was also the entire Yanzhou kingdom's peerless genius. He entered into the powerful ranks of the sword spirit stage at the age of 16. At 19 right now, he was already at peak phase sword spirit stage, was in the heaven class of the Empire Academy, and was one of the most influential figures of the academy. He was cold and indifferent, but he was exceptionally protective, especially towards his younger sister Lu Muyen, whom he doted on and cherished. A year ago, he left to train and gain experience. That's why so many people in the academy dared to openly bully Lu Muyen. Senior Lu, don't you need to explain why you injured me without even asking who's right and wrong? The jealousy and unwillingness in Gu Yanran's eyes were quickly hidden by her, then she asked Lu Mubai in a harsh, yet meek tone. Lu Mubai didn't even bother to look at her, took out a bottle of medicine for physical wounds from his interspatial ring, and poured it on Lu Muyan's wound. After seeing the wound stop bleeding, he replied flatly, "So what if I injured you? A shameful outsider like you isn't even worthy of teaching my little sister. You too are using your status to bully others. If Lu Muyan doesn't apologize to me today, I won't let this slide. Otherwise I'll go straight to the emperor to ask for an explanation." Gu Yanran choked with teary eyes as if she had been wronged yet wanted to appear strong and unyielding against forces of evil. The corner of Lu Muyan's eye twitched. This woman was so deeply immersed in her character. She snorted coldly, "What does my big brother need to explain to you? The fact that you stabbed me today, I similarly won't let it slide." Lu Muyan thought a little more, then provoked Gu Yanran, saying coldly, "Since you're that powerful, how about we have a fight after 3 months during the Academy's grand competition to see who's stronger? If I lose, I'll apologize to you in front of the whole Academy. If you lose, you'll admit that you plotted against me first, then purposefully injured me, and apologize to me. How about that? Do you dare?" "Sure." Gu Yanran honestly didn't know what was going on in that trash's brain. She actually wanted to compete against her in combat? What a joke. She was stronger than that trash by an entire stage. She definitely wouldn't lose. This was a perfect chance to ruthlessly trample on Lu Muyan, a noble, under her foot. She definitely wouldn't refuse such an opportunity. A trace of cunning flashed in Lu Muyan's eyes. She deliberately let Gu Yanran injure her, then took the opportunity to allow others to think she declared this challenge while emotional. On the day, she'll make sure Gu Yanran couldn't even cry. A few days ago, she received a message that Lu Mubai would return to the academy today. Based on the memories of the original owner, this big brother doted on and loved this little sister dearly. And Lu Mubei's aura had long been imprinted into her memory, so she used her mental energy to lock on to Lu Mubei's aura. The moment she felt Lu Mubai near her, the moment she used her words to anger Gu Yanran, then proposed a competition. Gu Yanran was already emotional due to the insults and humiliation, coupled with Lu Mubei's forceful oppression, so as she expected, the White Lotus Three readily agreed. The original owner of the body was previously schemed against by Gu Yanran and her company, resulting in her death. Now they were still relentless. Lu Muyan adhered to the principle of if one didn't offend me, I wouldn't offend them, if one offended me, I'll pay them back thousandfold. The most important thing to Gu Yanran was face and vanity. If she were to be defeated, in front of the academy's teachers and entire student body, by a trash, she definitely couldn't take it. By then, it would ultimately leave a heart demon, so if she wanted to break through the bottlenecks of higher cultivation stages, she would meet with obstacles set by a demon. From then onwards, she would never be able to step into the pinnacle of cultivation in this lifetime. The most ruthless return to her enemy was not to let her die, but to toy her to her death. And everything fell into the eyes of a devilishly handsome man who stood by the window of an old building beside the scene. He turned to leave and muttered, "What an interesting woman." Translated product by Mayar Come True. 1 Cheating. After Lu Mubai took Lu Muyan and left, Qi Yixian and the others also left one after the other, leaving only some students behind, chatting. A few girls in the same class as Lu Muyan gathered. One of the plain-looking girls who dressed simply said, "Did Lu Muyan go crazy? She actually promised a fight with Gu Yanran. Was she trying to vie for Qi Yixian with Gu Yanran again? Yeah, she actually wants to fight for him against Gu Yanran. In what way could she compare to her? Gu Yanran was currently an initial phase imp great sword master and she was only an initial phase sword apprentice. I heard she only got there because the Lu clan spent a vast amount of money to buy high-grade medicinal resources for her. With her condition, she actually dared to initiate a challenge. Did she want to die?" Another fancily dressed woman said with disdain. Another person stepped up and said bitterly, "It's because her identity's higher than Gu Yanran. After all, she's got an empress as an aunt, a marshal for a grandfather who helped found the kingdom, and the imperial capital's god of war for a father." But even though Gu Yanran comes from a family of merchants, ever since her elder sister entered the imperial harem, she had always been favored by the emperor and rose to the imperial noble consort status after only 2 years. Plus her clan's the imperial capital's richest clan. While her status isn't higher than the trash's, it wasn't too low either and just worthy enough for Qi Yixian. The fancily dressed woman continued. The first girl sneered, "Yeah, just last month she clashed with Gu Yanran and was accidentally severely injured. Who knew the moment she recovered, she'd shamelessly come back to the academy. But so what if her background was strong? Since she was unreasonably causing trouble, even if the Lu clan wanted to support her, they had no reason to. In the end it was the prime minister who became the peacemaker and the case fizzled out. Was her brain actually kicked by a donkey? She even dared to propose a challenge. Was she not afraid that the Lu clan would lose all their face because of her? Who cares, when the time comes, well just watch a good show." Lu Muyan and Gu Yanran's promised battle spread throughout the academy within only 1 day, and similar gossip could be heard everywhere within the academy. The unanimous thoughts were that Lu Muyan's brain had a stroke, she was looking for a beating, and was probably trying to play some sort of tricks to attract Qi Yixian's attention again. Basically, everyone in the school was waiting for a good show. After Lu Mubai bandaged Lu Muyan, he looked at her with concern and asked, "Why do you want to fight Gu Yanran? You aren't her opponent." "Right now I'm not her opponent, but I will be after 3 months. Don't worry, big brother. Ever since Lu Mu Yen inherited the memories of the original owner and agreed to live well in her stead, she was trying to integrate herself into the Lu clan and treat the people of the Lu clan as true family. Lu Mu Bai looked at Lu Mu Yen with a complicated expression. His little sister actually changed. When Lu Mu Yen was born, the imperial capital's divine seer told them that she would encounter a life and death situation at 15 years old, but once she successfully overcame the situation, she'd be enlightened and completely change. Their family was told not to be surprised as this was a fortuitous opportunity and she may even be able to walk the path of the strong because of that. Now he couldn't help but believe the result of the divine seer's divination. Though a sister like this assured him even more. Then how do you plan on surpassing her? Have you thought it through? Lu Mu Bai asked with a soft smile. When Lu Mu Yen first entered this body, half dead and in a conscious coma, she overheard her mother talk about how there was a person who divined that when she turned 15, her personality would change drastically. Therefore, she gradually revealed her true nature without concealing anything and let the members of the Lu clan slowly adapt to her as their daughter. Even though this was the first time she saw Lu Mu Bai, but because she inherited the original owner's feelings, she felt close to this big brother of hers. Lu Mu Yen pretended to be confused, as if recollecting something. After thinking for a while, she said, "Big brother, when I was injured and unconscious, I dreamt that I went to another world. There, the cultivation system was different to ours. I felt like I experienced thousands of years and learned a lot of things, one of which was the marrow cleansing pill that could change terminal meridian's constitution." Seeing shock in Lu Mu Bai's eyes, she continued, "I could eradicate my terminal meridian's constitution completely and the blocked meridians could be unclogged as long as I take the marrow cleansing pill." Really? That's fantastic. Do you know what ingredients are required for this type of pill? Lu Mu Bai's eyes were filled with joy and excitement. Lu Mu Yen nodded, "I know, and I can also refine it. I went to the Academy's library today to research. Even though the names of the spiritual herbs between the two worlds were different, according to the medicinal properties and the illustration on the books, they were definitely the same thing. Yenner, it's a blessing in disguise this time. What spiritual herbs do you need? Write it down, big brother will go find it for you." Lu Mu Bai caressed Lu Mu Yen's head with a gentle smile. Lu Mu Yen didn't dislike this gesture. Then she wrote down the names of the spiritual herbs and handed it to Lu Mu Bai. "These are the herbs. The rest are fine, but the flame fruit is a bit troublesome." After reading the list of herbs, Lu Mu Bai frowned slightly. "The flame fruit is definitely a little troublesome, but little sister, don't worry, they'll definitely find it for you." "Thank you big brother, I'll also look for it as well. Before the battle, I'll definitely refine the marrow cleansing pill and improve my constitution. At that time, I'll also take back the stage I lost last time." A layer of coldness surfaced in her eyes. Lu Mu Bai's face darkened, and he nodded. "Recently the Gu clan has been very arrogant. Even Auntie in the palace is being suppressed by imperial noble consort Gu. If it wasn't that the imperial capital was preparing for war, and the imperial family needs funds from the Gu clan, your incident last time wouldn't be suppressed like that. When Lu Mu Yen was injured by Gu Yen Ran last time, Lu Mu Bai happened to be out training. There were two main reasons why the Lu clan didn't pursue it until the end. One was that the imperial family intervened, hoping the Lu clan wouldn't pursue any further. After all, Lu Mu Yen was fine in the end. And second, it was just as the divination said, Lu Mu Yen indeed recovered from near death. Only because of this did the Lu clan not pursue the issue further against the Gu clan. By the way, about the challenge, I need big brother to put in a few good words for me when we return home. Otherwise grandfather and father and them will think him being willful again. Lu Mu Yen begged as she hugged Lu Mu Bai's arm and swung it back and forth. The reason why she provoked Gu Yen Ran to promise a fight only after she locked onto Lu Mu Bai's aura was so that he could deal with the Lu clan. She definitely wouldn't be able to handle the tears of her beautiful mother. Lu Mu Bai nodded helplessly, saying dotingly, "I really don't know what to do with you. Settle a little for the time being. I fear the entire population of the imperial capital knows of your challenge with Gu Yen Ran. Don't worry big brother, I will." After her heavenly eldest brother left, Lu Mu Yen began to think about what to do next. She planned to go to the mercenary union to see if there were any missions to the Blazing Mountain Range. The effects of the flame fruit could only be preserved for 2 months, so it'd be extremely difficult to find in the imperial capital. Instead of wasting time waiting without certainty, it was more reliable for her to seek for it herself. She initially wanted to go home, but realized that if she went home now, she'd definitely be interrogated about the issue regarding the battle and might even draw out her mother's tears. So she decided she might as well not to return home for the time being. She'd return after Lu Mu Bai spoke with them. Her residence was situated in a serene area. It was an independent, small courtyard and was a place specifically provided to pupils of meritorious clans by the imperial capital. It was a symbol of identity and status and wasn't something that could be bought with money. So it stirred the jealousy of many people when a weak person like Lu Mu Yen could inhabit this courtyard. Gu Yen Ran and Zheng Ro were amongst them. After viewing the courtyard, she immediately collapsed onto her bed and fell deep asleep. She was very tired today. This body still required more exercise and training. So she decided to have a good rest and take a trip to the mercenary union early tomorrow morning.